Welcome to the Multichain Nation. Today we have Felix, CEO and founder of Mure. Thank you for joining me, Felix.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to see you. It's nice to see someone building something on Axelar, but also I think your project is a little bit different because I go on the website, the first thing I see is the better way to transact. So I want to learn more about Mure and how do they make it a better way to transact.
Sure thing, sure thing. Well, first off, I'll jump into it of a story of how Mure is actually came to be. And fun fact, Mure is a name in Japanese. It effectively stands for swarm or network, which applies perfectly into a protocol in Web3. Um, but the core premise that we stumbled upon when it came to Web3 back in the day is that things are a bit too complex for people who are builders and trying to build end consumer applications. And we've tried a plethora of different things to try and adapt and so on. The main thing we got stuck on based off of customer feedback and overall requests for new features was how to make payments and overall transactions regarding to be it on-chain or off-chain products and so on more accessible. And that's effectively what we are focusing on solving. So Mure today is focused on payment abstraction or programmable payments to make it as easy as possible for any application builder, product seller, or whatever to be able to transact in some way, shape, or form using crypto assets. And we're not only talking about stablecoins, we're talking about any actual value bearing asset out there.
And I think that what blockchain was always trying to solve is making payments easy, smart contracts easy, but still there's a huge technical hurdle for someone to just let me just start using Ethereum network and start accepting payments. So Mure doesn't just solve or doesn't prompt to give what crypto promises to solve. It just genuinely makes it easy with a suite of APIs people can call and use. So
Exactly.
what was the story of Mure? Like how did you decide to go on this route?
I it's an interesting one. It actually started with fundraising as the main vertical that we tackled, and that was strictly because of the fact that back in like the 2020 2021 cycle, I was part of a community driven VC, and we were doing a lot of things manually. And if there's one thing I was terrified of is the fact that the sheer amount of transactions we got in were all tracked through spreadsheets. And like you said, smart contracts and transactions are supposed to make things safer using the blockchain. So what I said was, hey, I don't want anybody to shoot themselves in the foot by changing something wrong in the spreadsheets. And I also don't want to get to the point where if our operations get shut down, people don't get their actual funds at the end of the day. So with that, that's what actually was the predecessor of Mure, which then has turned into Mure since then, because we basically built out a suite for scratching our own itch to take in funds, distribute funds in an autonomous way, and having everything when it comes to the compliance side. And then when we transitioned into building Mure, we basically commoditized it. So we built a self-custodial framework around it all with, like you said, API first focus. So everybody can build their own products on top of it as well. And then you own your own smart contracts, similar to how like a Gnosis multisig works. It's basically using the same core implementation, but you have your own ownership rights, the permissionless setups, and so on. And then, yeah, that's kind of the origin story of it all. And then now we're moving way more into the general premise and primitive of payments.
Nice. And when we're in the blockchain ecosystem, there's, tons of different blockchains. So when Mure was first deciding how to build, like what blockchain were you building on? What were you thinking of?
Excellent question. I mean, when we started, we were all about multi-chain first. And when I say multi-chain, I don't mean the whole chain-to-chain interactions like cross-chain communication, but the fact that we can build and be accessible on multiple chains at once. So we started off with Ethereum from the first prototype we did, but then quickly expanded onto things like Base, Arbitrum, Avalanche, and so on, because they're all EVM compatible. So we've always focused on like compatibility to make it easy to expand onto other chains. And then as of the last 10 months or so, we've been working more and more towards the cross-chain aspect to kind of glue it all together to make it so that you have an even easier time to manage things. Because if you are to just focus on multi-chain and actually working with multiple chains at once, you will have the whole replication problems. You're going to have to manage the same state across different blockchains, and it just is problematic, and you reach a hassle. So that's where cross-chain is supposed to be the main focus, which is also kind of why we started building on Axelar.
Yeah, that's exactly the next segue. Is like you're running into this issue where you got to talk to different blockchains, and you have to do more cross-chain messaging. There
Yeah.
are other competitors with Axelar, but what made you decide to use Axelar?
So multiple reasons. We want to be as compatible as possible, and Axelar is one of those protocols that have a whole slew of different blockchains out there. I think right now it's like 70 or 75 or something or more that they cover.
Mm-hmm.
And we got the opportunity to join in on the Infinity Quest, which was kind of the cream of on top there as well, to make sure that we got all the support we needed. And it is a very like secure and interesting architecture compared to some other cross-chain protocols out there. I'm not going to name any names because I don't want to slander anybody. But Axelar was a very interesting one because it is focused around the consensus aspect. You have the security of it all, and it's a well-established protocol at this point.
Yeah, it is, and it's been around for a while, and it has been battle tested. So it's
Exactly.
exciting to be able to decide on what you need to do and find something that actually suits your needs. And for many developers, I've heard that it's super easy to implement on.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it it comes and goes. I would say it definitely was an interesting experience. There are like Axelar has been very very good in a lot of areas, and where it has not necessarily been as good when it comes to self-serve. It's been great to get the support from the Axelar team and the representatives that participated in the Infinity Quest Accelerator as well.
So Mure is, I want to learn more about Mure's target audience. I mean, it looks like you're building for businesses, but what business would come to Mure that would just make you so happy? What type of business would that be?
That's also a very good question. Our main focus right now, as we are rolling out our next suite of tools for payments and invoicing and so on, is targeting people that are looking to do like product sales, like we mentioned before during the introduction, but also people who are trying to handle more complex payment flows. Because one thing that is painful when it comes to payments today is that it's easy to send money from A to B, but tracking everything, knowing who the money came from, and so on and so forth is more problematic, especially if you have multiple wallets. They need to keep track of, and you need to do all the auditing and so on for tax reasons. And that's where we kind of want to help solve that to a large extent. But also when it comes to people who are doing independent contracting, invoicing as a whole, if you're working with a lot of service work and you have subcontractors, those type of businesses right now are the ones we're mainly targeting. But anybody else that would be interested in just trying out how it is to enable anybody to pay with anything, just hit us up. More than happy to chat and figure out what actually would be applicable to you and shuffle around anything that we can in the roadmap.
So you even help onboard with fiat, well, transact with fiat currency too. Sounds
That's
like.
a work in progress. We have some partners that we just closed to work with on and off ramping in various aspects of the world. But I think it's going to be coming in October/November. We will actually commence that overall integration, and that's the next phase of our overall goal that we're approaching. We want to build an overall network that can leverage blockchain to reduce the time and the cost that traditional banking networks take when it comes to cross-border payments and transfers.
It's music to my ears. This is exactly what people should be building on top of blockchain. I mean, this is exactly where, since 2009, since Bitcoin first was conceived, it's like, first came public at least, it's like, this is what we're trying to solve, is making payments easy and global for everybody. We still
Exactly.
need fiat today, unfortunately, but just, the reality of the game, it's not going to be a quick ripping the band-aid. It's going to be a slow increment of technology, moving money,
Yep.
bringing on board the ability to on ramp, off ramp. Eventually, everything is going to be on chain, and then my belief is fiat's going to slowly diminish away.
Right. Right.
That's what's happening with stablecoins. Everyone, you can love or hate stablecoins, but what's really happening is we're taking fiat on chain, and it's going to stay that way, I think, for the long future.
I agree. I mean, I think there was the like last cycle, end of last cycle, the whole conversation was around CBDCs versus crypto because one was centralized and one was decentralized. And we kind of saw how crypto won that battle. And now the adoption goes into the stablecoin aspect first, and then we'll see what comes next. And that's also what we've been focusing on is like trying to think of how can we be one step ahead to be able to cover everything and not have to compete with the giants that are out there. Because we just saw this week Stripe announcing Tempo, right?
Yeah.
Which is their new dedicated blockchain. And perfect topic of conversation today as well is that there will be so many different blockchains. And how do we facilitate and solve the problems in the ecosystems or the chains where people keep the liquidity? Because we don't know if Tempo is going to get all the traction that they're hoping to get. They likely will get a lot of it because it is Stripe, it is a well-established company and so on. But still, people will want to transact in the ecosystems where they have their liquidity.
Yeah, I think that's where Axelar really shines is because they were thinking 10 years, 20 years out. They weren't thinking to solve today's problem. Because
Exactly.
like today, yeah, like you can transact with Ethereum, EVM chains, great. But humans are humans and they will always try to build a bigger and better chain. They
Yep.
always will compete against each other.
Yep.
And you need something to bring it all together because otherwise it's just not, it's just going to be constant competition. And it's just,
Yep.
that's how we do better. It's a free market. It's also like the ethos of crypto. It's like free market, build whatever you want. But
Yeah.
it's hard to stick on one chain.
E-
It's really hard.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's kind of one thing that I love about the blockchain space as a whole in the builders communities. And that's kind of what got me to go full-time Web3 a couple of years back as well, is the whole, hey, let's build interoperable protocols that you can then stitch together. And that's exactly what we are focusing on at Mure as well. It's that how can we take what is already there, the fundamental protocols for DeFi, for lending, and overall cross-chain protocols and so on, and stitch them together to make it way more accessible for anybody else that is building on top of it. Right? We want to be that thin layer in between that handles the complexities of composing everything using Axelar, using, for example, Squid Router, which we also have integrated alongside with Axelar at this point, to handle the complex aggregations, the currency conversions, and everything like that. So that all you have to do as a consumer is to say, hey, I want to make a payment from this chain with this currency, and the recipient is supposed to receive it on that chain with that currency. And then that's all they do.
There's so many Web2 applications trying to solve that, but yeah, crypto and blockchain make it so much easier.
Yes, and that's why what I love about it. And it's transparent. It is safer. It is on-chain simulated and validated before you actually execute as well. Like it's just less scary at this point. It's not a black box.
Not any, well, it never was, but it felt like it was a black box to many people just because tech is general scary. Look at the internet. It's like, oh, how do you use the internet? How do you
Yeah.
use an iPad? How do you use anything new? But as it becomes more and more comfortable to use, especially when big players like Stripe are using it, PayPal,
Mm-hmm.
Robinhood, like in Coinbase is making it very simple to like onboard to crypto. It's just becoming more and more comforting to use. ETFs, it's everywhere, and it's nice to see that become more of a reality.
Agreed. Agreed.
Now for Mure, what is the current status of it? Can people start building right away? How do you get in touch?
So, yes, you can. The easiest thing is to either just use the forms on the website. There will be, we have a new one in the process that I'll send you the links and everything for that afterwards. It's under new.mure.app. We're right now working on migrating over documentation and so on to make everything work out. But there you can basically just go onto the dashboard, create an account. You can contact us for any help with onboarding, and you can effectively use everything today. We already have on-chain volumes from, well, the testing and all the work that we've been doing, and we're rolling out the actual payment product next week. So you can use it. Like we mentioned, it's API first, but with the invoicing and the overall payment setup, and also the fundraising stuff we did back in the day, we actually have a management dashboard as well. So you get a UI and everything to help manage your operations, see who has been paying what invoices are overdue, and so on, and actually be able to track everything from Axelar scan or other blockchain scanners, depending on the payments and so on as well. So everything is working. It's in, like, I would say, late stage beta, and we're just now ironing out the kinks to get going.
Wow, that's a pretty, like, so it's been going for 3 years now on this?
The company has been around for roughly 3 years. We expanded and focused heavily on the payment side roughly 12 months ago. Yeah.
What a journey for an entrepreneur. It's just, especially in crypto, like an entrepreneur in crypto, it's just every day is like a month, and it's just so much intensity and so much drive, and
Yep.
it's amazing to watch and see. So I'm really excited to see how Mure keeps developing. What's happening? What's next up from Mure? What should the people get excited about? I know you have the payment app coming out soon. What's in the roadmap for you?
So next up is, like I mentioned, the on and off ramping to enable us to go from crypto to fiat, or fiat to crypto, or even fiat to fiat at the long tail end of things. But also focusing more on enterprise client acquisition and really solving hard business needs to tackle the volume. And then providing more and more of these intuitive, streamlined experiences. Like, one thing that will come after this is more licensing and so on as well, to cut out more of the middlemen so that the fees can be reduced even further. Because one of our core goals here is that we want to create an ecosystem where fees are not predatory, where improvements are evergreen, and eventually be able to reduce the overall transaction costs for everybody to actually do these payments and financial transfers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm wondering how, because like today's world in Web2 and transactions, in the States we have like Venmo. In Europe, I think you use a lot of Wise and different apps to like transfer
Yep.
money. And for us, it's like free. I can transfer money between people for free. Even Apple has like cash transfers now for free.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a little bit difficult on Coinbase, or not Coinbase, sorry, on like blockchain in general. And even
Yep.
Coinbase, what they do is they subsidize the cost for transaction fees, so they can do
Yep.
stablecoin transactions for free. How is Mure looking into making it cheap, or if or essentially free for users to transfer funds?
Excellent question. So the long-term goal that we are doing, which is what we call phase 3, after this more enterprise focus, is that we will be looking to commoditize this overall process. So parts of the protocol that we are building will be more gray box, and integrators can effectively participate in payment settlements and payment routing and solving as a whole to help reduce the costs even further. And then also with that, it also reduces the risk of anybody wanting to try and monopolize these various aspects. But also, to tie back to what you said, subsidy is going to be the key thing here. That's why we also want to get the enterprise customers, because if we can get those, they can rake in more volumes, and then a part of the revenues that we're getting there can go towards user acquisition strategies, such as reducing fees further for individuals and retail users to make it so that they don't have to pay any actual costs.
That's smart, thinking about it.
That's how the big players have done it, to be honest.
Right.
That's the main reason for it. The core thing here, like you mentioned as well, is like Wise and so on. All of these products and solutions, they work well in their own sphere. Our goal here is to make it so it's more accessible between these spheres as well. So the blockchains and the cross-chain aspect is one way of seeing it as well, and like cross-border payments as a whole is another. Because more often than not, there are always hidden fees as soon as you go outside of that sweet spot bubble. Wise is a perfect example of it. It's a great product as long as everybody is on Wise. But as soon as you're trying to use credit cards to pay for anything, or you need to on-ramp money from one account to another, you pay like substantial fees at that point.
Yep. And I think people forget that too. It's just, why would I use Ethereum to make a transaction when I can use Venmo or Wise?
Yep.
Well, maybe so. In that case, it is the right call to use another Web2 application. But as soon as I want to make a transfer to a different bank, or if I'm on Venmo, I can't make a transfer to Wise directly, or at least there's no easy way to do it. And there's a lot of fees to actually transfer between different bank accounts in different countries.
Yep.
And most average day-to-day people don't experience that too much. But the one time you do, it's like, what? Why is there a $3,500 fee to move my money? That makes no sense.
Exactly.
And I have to go through all these like forms to fill out and answer these questions. I'm like, this is my money. It's like just trying to pay someone to do like my editing for me. It's like, why is this so hard?
Yeah.
It's nice to have that experience to really understand and appreciate crypto for what it is and really understanding what global economy means.
Exactly, exactly. And that's what we want to do with this multi-step approach where we focus on solving the core loop, which is the crypto aspect with the different blockchains and so on and the routing and whatnot. And then adding on the on and off ramps in compatible countries and parts of the world. So that effectively, if you get that decoupling, you could actually on ramp money from, let's say, the US and it goes through the blockchain, which kind of acts like a black hole in a sense, right? And then you can off ramp onto another country and so on as well. And as long as the KYC and compliance is compatible on both ends, you don't have to wait the long times that it takes to transfer money between different countries, up to what is it, 5 business days if you're unlucky. You have the transparency of where the money is going using the blockchain for the routing, and you have the actual settlements. So you can even ensure that, hey, the user's funds will not be deducted from their balance until the settlement proof is actually provided. So there is a lot of benefits to this whole mechanic.
Felix, I'm super excited from Mure. Thank you so much for building a product that people actually need and the ecosystem needs, and solving enterprise issues and making end users' lives a little bit easier using blockchain.
Thank you for having me. It's been great chatting with you and get to talk more about what we're building. And once again, a huge shout out to Axelar for the support and the help that we've been getting on building on GMP. Huge shout out to the partners over at Squid as well for the actual support that we got there to help with all the routing and trying out both the old and the new when it comes to their overall protocols. And yeah, thank you guys for having us as a whole.